So here's a brief introduction. This is the 6th edition of Fashion Film Festival Istanbul. And this year, most of the content is online due to the fact that the world is going through something. I don't want to talk about it because everyone just already finished talking about it. So we're here with two important people from NOWNESS, with the commissioners, Katie and Shelley. So welcome to Istanbul online. How are you?
Well, thanks for having us.
Hello, thank you for having us.
Thanks for being with us. So basically, we're here to talk about NOWNESS, how it works, how people can have a NOWNESS presents sort of films, what are the future plans, what's going on in Asia, this kind of thing. So let's just start. What is NOWNESS and what does it do?
Well, NOWNESS is a global video platform. And we like to say it's a platform for the culturally curious. So we're dedicated to creating and curating the best in video content. And I guess the goal of NOWNESS is to inspire and entertain our audience and consistently present excellence in digital storytelling.
And I mean, what does it make it different than the other video platforms or streaming services now? How does NOWNESS different than the other ones?
I think, we're a highly curated platform. So we have a very specific creative direction and sort of standard of creative guidelines and narrative guidelines. And we really strive to keep the quality of the films that we put out on NOWNESS up to that standard. It's not saying that they're better than anywhere else. They're just specific to us. So we prioritize, visual storytelling. We really like to see unusual, original, fresh, conceptual approaches to film through different formats and mediums. It could be animation, it could be video art, it could be documentary, it could be narrative. And we really, it's a broad spectrum, but we like to see directors bringing their personal point of view and vision to every film that they create. I think it's a really director-led platform. A lot of back in the day, I feel like you'd have like the channel would be Vogue or something, and Vogue would have a house style, and every film they put out would really fit within that house style. And I think NOWNESS is the opposite to that, in that we want every film to feel very authored or auteured, very much from the director's world, and bringing something new and different to what we do and what we put out.
So one of the easy questions, but I still don't know the answer. For example, all the content, is it only on nowness.com, or do you also present them online to everyone on your YouTube channel, for example?
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel. We also have a Vimeo channel. So you can see everything you see on NOWNESS, you can see on those channels as well.
So there is no examples like, first premieres on nowness.com and then maybe sometime later, or, what is the programming? Is it just the same with the YouTube and the website?
Yeah, it's the same. I think maybe in the past we used to premiere on nowness.com first and then on the other platforms after, but now we just do everything simultaneously. And it's quite useful programming, on Vimeo and YouTube, because it's just different ways of presenting the films and different ways for audiences to discover them as well.
Okay, so there are many NOWNESS films from different countries, from different filmmakers, artists, videographers, and with different themes. And many of them are also screened in different fashion film festivals, including the one in Istanbul and in Amsterdam. For example, the one in Amsterdam, which was in September. Also, we gave the Best Documentary Award to a film by NOWNESS in September. How does it work with the films that we see in the introduction? It says NOWNESS presents. How does the whole process start, and how does it end? Do you pick the filmmakers, or do the filmmakers or producers approach you? How does it work?
Yeah, we put out 3 films a week. So we put out films on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And every one of those films, Katie said, is an exclusive film that has never been seen online before. So it's exclusive to NOWNESS. It could have screened at a film festival before in real life, but it has to be the online premiere. And I think that exclusivity is another thing that separates NOWNESS from other video platforms. That's one of our unique selling points, perhaps. And out of the films that we put out, so it's about 150 a year. Usually about half of those are commissions, so films that we actively brief out to directors and develop with directors and help fund and create and bring into production. And then half of those are submissions or acquisitions, so films that directors have just made on their own in different ways and through different means, and have brought to us to release on NOWNESS. This year has been slightly different because coronavirus, I know we're not saying it, Voldemort, has, we've not been able to commission as many films as we'd like to. But, hopefully that will change quite soon. And we're still sort of very involved in helping steer directors to what, makes a good NOWNESS film, if that's something that they're interested in having that sort of premiere. I mean, obviously we bring a lot of other value to NOWNESS releases in terms of huge social campaigns around everything that we release, and, the editorialization and the audience and interest that, and integrity, I guess, that we already have.
So, I mean, let's say I have a project in mind, I have my, pitching file. So, I mean, do I just pitch it to you online and then I produce it? Or, for example, I already produced a film and I want it to be premiered and included in your programming. And how do I do it?
So there's a submissions page on nowness.com, so you can submit your film to us through that, and then it will be watched by our lovely programmer Marley, who watches hundreds of films a week, and then there's usually an internal discussion about premiering the film and how it fits into our editorial plans for the year, and then we'll build, as Shelley said, build an entire social campaign, because really Instagram is the gateway for a large part of our audience. Yeah. So it's really important, and even when we're looking at films, we'll be considering how they'll perform on socials as well, because it's sort of, we have to think 360 about the whole release. So for example, if the film is really dark, I don't even mean dark tonally, I mean dark as in literally dark tones, dark color palette, then the socials team are usually saying this is not going to pop on socials. So so there's all these different elements that we need to take into consideration. And there are certain types of films that perform really well on NOWNESS. There's themes such as dance, architecture, relationships. A lot of our audience are cinephiles and love cinema, so that's another element. So we're often thinking about those kind of themes as well.
So I think there are some also series based upon some themes, like architectural films, like dance films. I mean, is there specific themes on making series? Because sometimes a filmmaker, for example, can see that there's this series, so maybe this film fit in this series, or he can just consider producing a new one for that. So that's why I'm more curious about this series.
Yeah, the series so we've got series that we commission, such as In Residence, Great Gardens, My Place. These are all kind of format series that we commission to brief. And with those, it's as their formats, it's a kind of, there's already a kind of style sheet to how they're shot and a structure to them. So it's they're more talent-led formats. And for example, if somebody sent us a video and said, I'd love to pitch this for your In Residence series, it wouldn't quite work, because with those series, the most important part of it is that we steer the film from start to finish. So we're very involved with those films. So we can't really just slot a film that comes in separately into those series. But we do have other badges on site. One that just popped into my head is Dancing About Architecture, which is the kind of intersection of two of our most popular themes. So if there's a film that's sent to us that's features dancing and architecture, then we can present it as part of that series.
And also, how does the branding films? Because we also work with brands when you films. How does it work?
So with brands, we will be approached by brands, and they will have a brief, and that brief could be really extensive, or it could be really really vague. It might just be a couple of keywords, and then we'll respond with we'll have a creative response to that brief. And then once that's signed off by the client, we'll reach out to directors to pitch. So we'll usually reach out to, say, 3 directors that we think would be a really amazing fit for the project. And then they'll send in their treatments and we'll go through those with the client and pick the one that they want to proceed with.
So where does fashion stand within all these themes and the films that you commission?
It's quite interesting because fashion kind of, in terms of fashion film, in the digital space, it's sort of much more about just showing the clothes now. So now fashion really needs to be packaged into more enticing stories, and it needs to be entertainment. So it's sort of moving away from that more product-driven narrative and taking a much more cinematic approach. So
it's not only about the clothes or the collections anymore. It's like a visual way that we call fashion these days, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And it's weaving the clothing into a wider story rather than it just being the sole focus. So that's where you can bring these elements of dance or even like digital design or other themes into the storytelling, so that fashion is a protagonist in the story as such, but it's not the sole focus. And I think those are the films that really perform the best for us, the ones where we're able to kind of create that intersection of, say, fashion with dance or fashion with digital design.
And I think a lot of it as well is sort of, you know, bringing to life the creative codes or values of a brand or a fashion label or company. So I can think of fashion films that we love and that are great, that don't even have like maybe one product in it at all, you know, like you were saying, Katie, but they very much are emblematic of what the direction the brand is heading in and the values the brand stands for and the kind of inspirations and influences the brand pulls from. We made a film with Grace Wales Bonner last year for her exhibition at the Serpentine called A Time for New Dreams. And that was, you know, she was pulling in a lot of diaspora art into that exhibition, and we featured the artists in that. And I think maybe, I mean, there was a dancer and they had some Wales Bonner, they were wearing some Wales Bonner, but it was pretty, you know, it was very integrated, and it certainly wasn't the focus, but everything built up together to create this world, which really reflected the world of Wales Bonner. So you can watch that and really understand, I think, what the brand is and where the brand's coming from. And then it's not too much of a journey to make your way to the designs themselves, you know, the clothing itself from there.
So I mean, this is the time that everyone is talking about. I mean, everything will be more digitalized, or video will be like the new king when it comes to content and like storytelling. So, what do you think? I mean, is it really some sort of a process that had started like years ago with the digitalization, with the internet, or this pandemic and the lockdowns? Did it really change things for like old school brands or like more conservative brands? What do you think? What's going to be the brands all over the world new approach to videos and films online, especially?
I think innovation has always been and has to be a huge part of fashion and a huge part of culture in general. And, you know, we certainly are seeing really innovative, incredible, creative digital solutions to some of the content that perhaps would have come out in different ways previously. But I think, and you know, a lot of that is exciting and amazing, and that will continue. But I think also, you know, I believe there'll be a little bit of a backlash to, not backlash, but I think, you know, people will be excited to come into the, you know, in real life situations again and have more experiential experiences again when lockdown eases. So I think I imagine there'll be a movement towards the sort of real, in the moment, physical IRL experiences, and a way for, you know, digital is here to stay. It's a part of life as anything else, and you know, there is a lot of innovation still within digital in terms of VR and you know, the AR, the exciting things that are happening in that space. That literally, you know, are quite mind-blowing. But I think one doesn't replace the other. They work in tandem, and they will continue to complement each other, and provide a sort of multi-layered experience of the fashion world and the culture that comes out of it.
Okay. So when it comes to commissioning or like doing new productions, how do you find new talent? I mean, of course, you watch films online, I'm sure, or going to festivals, reviewing the pitchings. But what is the main source for you to find new talent when it comes to, yeah?
We find a lot of filmmakers through the films that are submitted to NOWNESS, the films that we premiere, and that's sort of a journey that we like to take with filmmakers, is to first premiere their work and then commission them for an editorial project, and then move on to working on a branded project with them. And of course, yeah, we see things, but Shelley has a cool way of finding filmmakers. Don't you? Do social.
Do I?
Yeah.
What's
yeah,
that?
you're always finding amazing filmmakers on Instagram.
Yeah, no, I do always say this when people ask me this question, that I am a Instagram spy, and I spend a lot of time trawling through profiles and, you know, saving. They have this save function, collections function in Instagram, and like if my Instagram ever gets destroyed, I need to back it up because it's actually really stressful, because I have like archives and collections of different locations, styles, everything in the back of my Instagram. It's such a great resource. And I always say, you know, we speak to like students sometimes, or emerging filmmakers, to answer questions about, you know, what NOWNESS is looking for. And I say, if you make your Instagram as representative as possible of your style and filmmaking and portfolio, or even where you want to head, you know, the vision that you have, and also put in your location and that you're a director or something in the bio, it makes it so easy for us to find you and for us to consider you for projects. And I think that Instagram is a really amazing resource in this day and age in leveling the playing field of talent research and you know, for directors to get their work out, for sure.
So let me ask a simple, maybe silly, but a very practical question. I mean, when it comes to many announcements, what are some themes that you see there's a lower number of pitchings or lower number of productions that makes any people who makes this kind of films luckier than the rest, because they would, you know, more stand out? I mean, is there some sort of things that when you say, oh my God, I mean, why this kind of theme doesn't come a lot? So as a filmmaker, for example, oh, okay, then I get the hint, so I can, you know, focus on this kind of themes and make it like easier or luckier to be discovered. Okay, I'm sorry, I asked a long question for a very simple question.
It makes sense. It's a really good question, actually. And I'm trying to think, I mean, another way to answer it might be thinking of what we get a lot of, submissions that are quite similar. I'm trying to think. Katie, do you know off the top of your head?
I mean, in terms of stuff we get a lot of, I guess there's things like profile documentaries we get a lot of, and they really, for us to be able to consider them, because there's so many of them, you know, it would be a profile about a person who has a passion or a person who's talented at something. They really need to be elevated. They just need that kind of, they need to make an emotional connection, and they need to have that extra level of elevation. But I mean, I suppose when I answer this question, it's usually quite vague, but it's saying that we want to be surprised. We want to see something we haven't seen before that excites us, and yeah, that's I think that's what
I can also ask the other way around. I mean, what are the themes, or like anything that you are sick of seeing? Like, oh my God, I mean, please don't send this kind of things. I mean, maybe this
lockdown films.
Yeah. I think there's a tendency to see, you know, film can be quite a personal medium, and I think that, you know, you can see quite personal films, and it's not that we don't want those, but sometimes, you know, there is a tendency, I think, for the personal emotion, which can feel quite singular and insular. And I think what's interesting is when someone tries to look at a sort of bigger narrative, they can apply their personal story, but look at the bigger narrative. For example, you know, we get films about, you know, perhaps about like grief and about, you know, strong personal emotions, which makes perfect sense, but not necessarily transcending the personal experience and trying to find the universal message in that, or an unexpected angle on that. I think the strongest films are the ones that have a narrative, a complicated, complex, layered narrative, you know, outside of themselves, that aims to try and have a wider sort of understanding or conceptual approach. I'm not sure if that makes sense. But like thinking beyond the self, like you want to put the self in it, and it's inevitable that it's going to be there, and you want things to be, you know, personal and directed. But I think finding the universal connection is also really important.
Yeah, so there's layers to it, and it's not one dimensional.
Okay. So when it also comes to this, different people with maybe similar themes, then I also think about this new NOWNESS Asia. I mean, how different is it? I mean, is it the same team? Is it also based in London? What is this focus? What's different than typical NOWNESS?
It's headquartered in Hong Kong, and it's a completely different team from the NOWNESS team. Although they're different markets, we do also cross over in the content that we present. So what goes out on NOWNESS Global will often go out on NOWNESS Asia as well. But they do have their own team, and they do their own commissioning that's specific to NOWNESS Asia.
All right. So I mean, this was basically what we needed to know when it comes to commissioning and like pitching the films to NOWNESS. So is there anything final that you want to say to people who are watching this? Like, this is the cheesies and the last question, so sorry.
I mean, for me, I guess it's just like, keep making great work, you know. I'm always so impressed, surprised, delighted, inspired by the work that comes to us, both, you know, work that's already been created, or work that come, you know, or ideas that come in treatment form, or, you know, an email. Like, people have an incredible capacity to make things and push conversation forwards. And I think I always feel excited when there is that, you know, there is a sort of agenda in terms of like a conversation, or you know, a provocation, or challenging you know, an accepted standard. Or, you know, I think now the best NOWNESS films really do present, you know, things in a different light and in a different way. And I think you know, I just hope that people continue to make great work. I know it's not easy, and I know the money's not always there for original things which aren't heavily branded, but people do it, and it's amazing. And this day and age, you don't need as much as you used to. So I know that it is, you know, it's possible for people. So yeah, I just keep making great work, and keep sending us stuff and getting in touch. Even if please get in touch with ideas as well. You know, we might not always be able to realize them, but I think once we start that conversation and we see the way that your brain's working, and we have a sense of what you're into, then you're always going to be considered for briefs that we have, and opportunities that we do have. So I think it's important that we have those relationships with directors, and we see what they're up to, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just popped up. How do you think a COVID and pandemic will be included in the upcoming productions and commissions that you're going to do? Are you going to put some more emphasis on it, or are you going to put it like the other themes as well?
Do you mean in terms of the storytelling?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody is just
because there's always this risk that people will gonna get sick, not because of the disease, but also with these films and content.
Do you mean in terms of like the actual production of the films?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing with our films is they're quite nimble, and they usually involve very small teams. So it's less risky in that sense, and it's usually just a one-day shoot. So I feel like we've been able to sort of continue in production. So it's not like a shoot that's, you know, one of these epic shoots where people have to get tested every day, and the shoot could get sort of stopped at any point. So I think we're in a really good position where we can be reactive. But in terms of COVID in the storytelling, we do not want any COVID stories.
Yeah, I mean,
everyone is over it.
And, my COVID artist And
We need escapism.
yeah, exactly. Also, I mean, yeah, that's why people, anyways, yeah. I'm personally also not sick, thank God, but sick of this COVID stories online. So that's refreshing in a way. So these were my questions, and thank you very much for giving the time to me and the audience online. And hopefully we can welcome you physically in Istanbul as our guests, so that I can get to show you what's going on here and the joyful part of the festival, which we.
I really want to come to Istanbul. Please invite me.
You're not even invited. I mean, you're already in the guest list. I mean, you would be here if everything was just different, but for next year. So yeah, I'm sure we're gonna have a nice time in Istanbul. So we'll see about that. Thank you again. Thank you very much. And I give you all the best wishes from Istanbul, because today in Istanbul the weather is just like London. I hope it is better there.
Thank you so much. Continue doing
it. And I hope the festival's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks to you. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.
You too.